Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janine Vosper.
Hi, it's Janine Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. Today with me, I have Christine Sharkey. Now, Christine and I have so much in common and so much we want to share about sales and so much experience in that field. And I'm so looking forward to what Christine's got to add to this, because I think, and her whole thing is about follow-up, and it's one of the most important things. That Christine has had many years experience in customer service and building relationships and running a security business and generally in the service industry. She's married, she's got one daughter and a couple of grandchildren as well. And her passion is to provide businesses with an opportunity to give their clients and potential clients an excellent customer experience and thereby grow their business. And Christine's been in her spare time enjoys reading and walking and spending time with family and friends, as well as learning new things. Welcome, Christine. That's a very simplified bio from some of the ones that I've read out before, and I'm sure that there is a lot more to that than what that is in there with your years of experience. Welcome.
Thanks, Janine. I mean, yeah, how much history do you really want? Do we go back to our 20s or something? No, I'm sure that would be quite boring for everybody.
Well, I don't know. It's every step along the way that gets you to where you are, in that period of life. And it's all those learnings that get you to be able to be comfortable. And we're talking about sales and customer service, particularly today, but to be able to be really comfortable and skilled at doing it. I mean, that didn't happen overnight.
No, it's like all of us. It's a journey, isn't it? And we take these things wherever we are in life. We take where we're at now and make the most of that the best way we know how. Learn as much as we can. I don't know, maybe some people don't really like learning is what I've kind of found, that for some reason, some people just are happy to sit where they are. And I'm not sure why that is, but I'm not one of those. I kind of go, there is more. And why would we not want the more? So, read good books, surround yourself with good people, have fun, enjoy the journey and learn and grow. And then you get to where you and I are and it's like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's easy to do because you've just done it. And as you said, taken those little steps. It's quite coincidental. I wrote a thing this morning and sent out a marketing thing to some of my clients, and it was on that about Einstein's quote, the definition of insanity is continuing to do something the same way and expecting different results. But that was part of that. Also, questioned my clients, what have you learned this year? What goals had you set? And then what steps have you taken to achieve those goals? Because if you haven't taken any steps and you're continually doing the same things the same way, or you haven't got guidance from experts, or you haven't read the books, you got coaching, whatever it is, if you haven't done that, then what are you expecting to be different than the results that you've had every other time?
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, I was never a goal setter when I was younger. I suppose I liked spontaneity. And because I wasn't running a business or anything like that, I was working for other people. I was a single mum. So it was more important for me to be at home when my daughter came home from school than it was to have a career for myself. And it is a choice that people make along the way. And I suppose these days it's a little easier, although if you're not there, you're not there. So I don't know how that works for people these days. But for me, it was really important to make sure that my daughter knew that I was there for her when she finished her day at school, because kids come home from school and all sorts of things happen. So So for me, it was never a matter of needing to have goals in some ways, from the perspective of running a business or anything like that. So it took me a long time to get to the point where realizing that goals are actually important. And I suppose if I had made some even personal goals back then, I may have been able to start what I'm doing now sooner. But at the time, that wasn't my focus. So yeah, I don't know how people manage that.
I think that's always that. It's not just the goal, and that it's that looking forward and the steps along the way. Sometimes it's we may not achieve that specific goal, but it's the steps we've taken along the way that help us grow and then find and for you and I, obviously it's customer service, which find those passions that we love to do. And I know when I'm talking to students who are trying to figure out what they want for their career and where they want to go, my first question is what are the things that you like to do? Because there's nothing worse than being, if you love people and you love communicating and you love being in service, then sitting behind a desk as an accountant is just not going to work for you. It's
no.
So being able to know what's important. But if you're more introvert and you love things to figure things out, then that's a perfect occupation for you. It's all that part of that journey, isn't it? Every step you take along the way, and yours, you talk about customer service and building relationships and a security business. So tell me about the security business that you built.
Well, my husband Neil was a Telstra technician for most of his life, and then he took a package, and so by that stage, we were we didn't even get married until we were only been married 26 years now, so 25 years now. So he wasn't a part of my life in the days when I was bringing my daughter up, but so he decided to take the package that Telstra were offering, and then went out to be a handyman because he likes tinkering with things and fixing things. And he likes to be, the knight in the shining armor, rescuing people from the things they can't do for themselves, especially, probably a bit older people or single moms and people like that who can't do things themselves. So he's that sort of white knight type of person and gets a real kick out of helping people like that. And so that didn't really work very well for him. And eventually a friend of his said, "Oh, why don't you come and install alarms?" He said, "Oh, well, that's sure. Why not? I'll give that a shot." So he did that. And then we just gradually got more and more work and ended up with a business. In a way, it was a little bit, I don't know. It was one of those things that evolved, I suppose. We didn't plan it that way particularly, but it evolved into that. And I realized that I actually loved doing that, and realized that I actually had always wanted to build something. And so that had come out of me, I suppose, during that process that, I really love doing this. And because I was the lead generator and I was the quote follow-upper and things like that. And so, I guess I found my place in really just, phoning people to ask them, is this what you want? This is what we understand you wanted. Is that what you want? Have you got everything you need? Is this fulfilling the needs that you have and things like that, which Neil would have checked when he was there doing the quote. But, people change their minds or they suddenly think of something they didn't think of at the time and all this sort of stuff. And so I just found that was like, I just love to do that. It was such fun, and getting to talk to people and what's happening in their day or their week or their life or whatever. And, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it so much.
And when you're going into that sort of process without necessarily the end agenda, I mean, the reason for the follow-up is to get the sale, but
Sure.
That's not your agenda when you're talking to somebody. I mean, I'm assuming from those conversations, your agenda is to help people and help them get what they want. And it's such a different space and feeling than ringing somebody to go, okay, I'm ringing them now to close a sale or to get them to do something. And that doesn't feel as good as, okay, I'm ringing them now to help them out.
Exactly. And it's interesting, different periods of my life, people have said to me, oh, you should be in sales. You should be in sales. And I'd go, no, because back then salespeople they just get the sale, push, push, push. And they had such a bad reputation. And not all of them were like that, but the reputation was like that. And I went, no way, I am not going to be one of those people. But I suppose I think things have changed a lot in the last, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years or something, maybe 20 years. Things have changed a lot. And I think sales are evolving into that aspect of actually, they always said, well, you're there to help the people, but you could tell with a lot of people, they weren't. They were there to get the sale. And that feeling is such a revolting feeling. And if you've ever had anybody do quotes for you, you can tell the ones that are there to get the sale and versus the ones who are there to help. And so I never wanted to be one of those people that with that sort of reputation. So I steered away from sales until we had our own business. And then that's when I kind of was able to be, I didn't even consider myself a salesperson. I was there to help the clients or the potential clients have a great experience and like us so much that they wanted to deal with us.
Yes, and that it's this whole shift in energy when you're doing that. I teach people how to close sales. There's no doubt about it. If you don't close a sale, you don't have a business. That's the bottom line. But if it's a totally different energy when you're going in to be able to assist people, and I know when I'm talking to people about coaching, sometimes I'm not the right person, or I'm talking to organizations about going in and training them. Sometimes I'm not the right person, and I will then let them know that I've got so many contacts. I know of other people that might be able to fill that spot for them. But it's just being, I can do this, but I can't do this. That's the honesty part. And people appreciate that honesty also, that you're able to, you're still helping them. You're still helping them get the results they want, but you're just doing that in a different way, and you get remembered that way.
Yes. And we do that a lot now because we still have the security business, but we don't, Neil's sort of semi-retired, and so he has pulled back a lot, but we still get calls from people who want, say, some of the more modern technology of, entry and house things where you make everything work with one push of a button thing and all that great technology that's around. And people still ring us and say, do you do this? And we're, no, but I do know somebody who's excellent at it, and I will get him to give you a call. So there's still that thing where you're still helping people get what they need. And I think that's the most important thing, is when their needs are more important than my needs.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way of phrasing that their needs are more important than my needs. And it does. It makes it people will feel comfortable with that mindset as opposed to trying to make a sale. A friend of mine used the quote that she feels icky. I often use that word because I absolutely love selling, and I love helping people get good at selling because I want them to see them succeed in business. But the primary part of why I want them, and so that's why I do it, because I want them to succeed in their business. And as we said, if you don't make a sale, you don't have a business. But I want them also to be able to help others, because they usually have a great product or service that they can change people's lives or provide them with exactly what they need. So if they can't sell it, then, so someone can't buy it, then they're letting other people down. And the first one that's popping into my head, I have a client that sells a product called Bath Calm, which is a phenomenal thing that you can, it even has a QR code that you can play music while you're in the bath, the relaxation music of the thing. It's an amazing product. And if she's not good at getting the information out there, then nobody's going to know about this particular product. So it's so important to be able to love being able to share information about your product. And I think, and what I usually say, it's ego getting in people's way when they don't, because it's all about them. It says, I don't want to do it. I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be bothering people. So it's the focus is on them and not the focus on the client.
I remember those feelings. Gosh, I hadn't thought about those for a while. But yes, that's exactly right. Like, I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable, and I still don't want them to feel uncomfortable, but it would hold me back. Like, I could say, well, I know that I've got a product or whatever that will be good for them. However, I don't want that salesman reputation of pushy and shoving. And I used to find, it was quite interesting, I used to find that I could more easily sell, say, your product than I could my own. And I think that it's not, I mean, it is ego at the end of the day, because we want to be seen to be a nice person and everybody like us and all those things. And those things are natural for everybody. Everybody wants, well, pretty well, everybody wants to be liked. And if we're having trouble liking ourselves, sometimes it's hard to understand why other people would like us. So that comes across in the way that we portray ourselves, and people may not know what's going on, but they feel it. And so when you don't either believe in your product enough, or you don't believe in yourself enough, or you don't actually believe that what you have is really good for people, and you have a problem selling something that you gain from, which I used to have that problem. If I'm going to gain from it, I just couldn't do it. But if I was doing it for somebody else, once again, I'm helping somebody else to grow their business. So now I can do that. So there's a big learning curve. And I think, you've got to surround yourself with real people who, I mean, now I was in MLM things a couple of times, and excuse me, you hear them say the words, and you look at what's going on, and things I didn't kind of know what was really happening, but I just knew it wasn't right. And I think that when you're trying to sell something where you don't understand or don't feel like whatever's going on in the background of that product or that sale or whatever, so the business, I guess, if you don't feel like that's good and right and proper and real and authentic and all those things, then you can't, if you're one of those people who is all those, you can't do it. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
And I think that's true for most people, Christine. Exactly the same thing, that if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't feel authentic, and I work with a lot of people in multi-level marketing, and I love it when they love the product. They're so passionate about the product, and they just want, if it's beauty, they just want everyone to look younger. If it's health, they just want everyone to be slimmer and healthier. But the reason they're doing it is because they can see that the difference it makes in people's lives, and then they get excited by it. And that's the thing is, when it comes to the sales, is you have to be excited by it. I know there's people that come to me that have said, oh, look, I've been working in sales for years, working for someone. But I'm trying to sell my own product, and I'm so nervous about it. And it's a very, very different feel, because when somebody says no, they're saying no to you personally, and it feels very, very different. And it's very personal, sort of, well, why not? What's wrong with it? Rather than just move on. It's I know I was GM of a multi-million-dollar first aid supply company, and I used to write all the major contracts, and I would win most of them, and occasionally I wouldn't win one, and I'd be, well, how did that happen? Because I owned it. It wasn't that I work for them. I owned it, and we go, right, okay. And unfortunately, with all of those, you could appeal or go back to them and say, well, let me know, give me some feedback. And usually we're just dealing with council in the country towns. We want a local supply. There was little things like that made no difference, and it was okay. It's not me, and I knew it wasn't. It just, because I owned it, I really owned it. It wasn't just working for somebody else. It was, It was like, okay, how did I lose that one?
Yeah.
Well, how come I didn't win that one? I'm surprised now. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it is like that, isn't it? You take it, it's so easy to take it as a personal affront or a personal rejection and things like that, which is why I love doing what I do, because apart from the security, but what I do mainly now, it's because I understand that. I understand why people don't get on the phone to follow up. I understand why they don't want to make those calls, because they are invested in it and own it, like you say. And often it is their own business, so they own it even more so. And it's really hard to hear people say no. And then what do you say when that happens? It kind of is like, yeah, it just kind of freezes you a little bit, and you don't even know hardly how to say, well, why? You can't go, well, why? What's wrong with me?
And absolutely, I'm going to ask you more about the follow-up business that you have, but I know that there's things that we've talked about, and there's certain beliefs that we're very passionate about within sales and the whole customer service aspect. So do you want to talk about some of those that talking about people and those aspects of it that comes from that deep place where somebody might feel more comfortable about sales and service and follow up and you know yeah and
I think the first premise has to be that people are important.
mm,
They're more important than power. They're more important than the sale. They're more important than, time or control or like anything. They're more important, really, at the end of the day. If we were being really, really able to be really, really authentic and deep about it, it would be that actually other people are more important than me. It's how do you serve people if you're putting yourself first?
mm,
You can't. You have to have such a desire and understand the thrill of actually helping somebody, and that if that thrill when you help somebody, it's so exciting. It's just one of the best things on earth if you can actually help somebody to get what they want, even if it's not your product, as you said before.
mm.
To know that they're getting what they're looking for, whether you agree with what they're looking for, whether you think it's right for them, it's got nothing to do with us. That's what they want. And you may be able to have an opportunity to talk to them about why do they want that particular thing. Have they checked out something else that might be better in the situation? But you can't tell them that's not the best thing for them. But there are opportunities to get inside of people and share things, and share some of your experiences or your understandings, or find out. Sometimes people want something to fill a gap. They might have some emotional thing going on in their life that they don't know how to deal with. So, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I know that comfort eating is an amazing thing.
I think most people know about comfort eating at some stage.
Yeah. So, what happens if somebody is in a really bad place and they've come and their comfort eating is shopping, for instance, and buying something that they don't necessarily need, but it makes them feel good. So, when we are able to connect with people or pick up intuitively, or, just get that opportunity to connect with them in a way that they are then feeling safe to share something with you, they might walk out not buying anything, but how amazing is it if you're able to help them feel better about themselves or the situation, or have more hope, or feel encouraged, or, all those kinds of things. That's all part of selling as far as I'm concerned, because selling's not about selling. Selling's about people. It's
Yeah.
about relationships.
And that's really and that's absolutely perfectly real, isn't it? It's just it is about people, and that's what I love, particularly, I love running in-person events and where you can really be with people, have real conversations. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because we can have real conversations with people. There's a lot of automated things that we get to, that we do now as well, that sometimes that loses that a little bit, unless you can do what you were just saying, build that connection and tell a story about who you are, and otherwise those automated are just, we know they're automated, don't we? They're not.
Yeah, I know, it's horrible, isn't it? Because you can tell, when you don't respond to something that somebody sent you, and 2 days later you get an email says, oh, did you get my whatever? And you kind of go, well, yeah, I did, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it, look at it. But, because you're not my highest priority, quite frankly. And, you're serving your agenda, but I'm not serving your agenda. And so, and then they keep sending you stuff, and you just kind of go, it's all automated. If I actually thought you cared about me and you were actually interested in what was good for me, then I might interact with you on this, but I'm not, because you've just got these automated, when something happens, this happens. When that doesn't happen, that happens. And I can unsubscribe, quite frankly, because you don't care.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we get them all the time. And I know I have a weekly blog I send out, and in the blog, I give information or give stories or give value. And then I do ask for things. Click on this if you want something free, or click on this if there's a workshop coming up, or whatever it is. But you have to give to get. And a lot of the people just automatically and look, it's clever. The funnel thing is clever that you do it, but you've really got to hit the mark with that, and still the focus is on the people and solving the problem, not selling something to me, which is, we know when we're being sold to. And in 2021, we want to buy things. If we want to buy something, we'll go online and look at it and research it. We had a guy here selling a product on the weekend. I won't say what it was or the type of product, because that will probably give away what it was. And he was here for 2 hours, and it was a good product, and he's showing us all these things, and it did some awesome things. But at no stage did he ask what well, he said, oh, how would that work for you? And you'd say, that's okay, but I don't necessarily do that or need that, and is a cleaning product, and I don't do the cleaning here. My husband does it, and he's saying, well, I'm not going to do all these extra things. And it was okay, so we don't really need something that does that. And he couldn't get it. This guy could not get that we didn't need some. Yeah, it's great, it's awesome, it does things well, but we don't really need it. And I'm not going to do it. So, I said, okay. It was interesting as a salesperson going through the process, and it was so busy demonstrating the product, it missed the mark with the people. And he was chatty and everything, but it was just missed that connection. And
because you know what he needs, Janine.
Oh, yeah.
Your sales training.
He does, and he hasn't followed up. So there we go. He needs your follow-up training, Christine. So
maybe between us, we can help him be a much
absolutely
better salesperson that knows how to care about what people's needs and requirements are, rather than his product.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about the follow-up, the business that you have, helping people know how to follow up and doing it. You do it for people too, do you? No.
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So the first thing that I like to do is to actually make sure they've got a system, because I found that most people don't have a system, or if they do, it's got gaps in it all over the place. So have a look at what they do, where does the lead come in, where does the sale take place, and what's in between that. Because once we have a system, we can have efficiency, and we can have training, and we can have all sorts of good things that happen out of having a system and a procedure that is useful in your business. So that's the first step. once we have that in place, or while we're putting that in place, we can still start to do calls and things like that. So I remember we had a patio. We were spending 25 grand or something on a patio at the back of our house. So we had 3 people come in and quote for it, came up, gave us ideas and thoughts and things like that. And so the 3 of them gave us a quote, and we never heard from or saw 2 of them again. That's a $25,000 sale. And they just didn't
disappeared.
like,
I know. They'd gone to all the trouble of turning. When I run my webinars, I have a very similar story that I talk about solar for the roof. That was a $10,000 sale.
Yep.
And didn't hear from 2 companies again. I even waited before we made a decision and went, well, at least this company cares enough about me to give me a call back. So yes, he got the sale.
Yes. And well, with our guy, I mean, because because we kept going, well, what if we did this instead of that, or would it be possible to have this included and things like that. So the poor guy, I mean, it was a normal sale for a large priced item where we had lots of questions and toing and froing, and so we probably had, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 points of contact with him during that period of time. And nothing was too much trouble. He was never upset about it. He never got a feeling of like, oh gosh, these people are a nuisance.
He may have said that when you hung up, but
he might have.
But he didn't demonstrate it.
No, he didn't. He did not, and he didn't even exude it. Like, sometimes you can pick it up, but because he had to come over 2 or 3 times as well in that. So, so obviously he got the work because we could tell he was interested. He actually wanted the work. So, and those others, when you think about it, to go and drive out, do a quote, spend the time there, finding out what's needed, going back to the office or wherever, and then eventually, and putting the quote together, which then takes a lot of time on some of those bigger products as well, and then to never, ever make contact with that person, it's half a day's work. If you're working at $100 an hour, you've lost $400 and you haven't even bothered to follow it up and find out if you can get the job. It's like crazy.
I find it absolutely crazy. And look, people can blame time and they're busy, but you've got to allocate time. Now, for me, tomorrow morning, I've got a whole window of about 3 hours, and it is follow-up time I'm doing a time analysis study, and I'm putting that as actually business sales, because that's what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. But the thing is, quite often, and in some businesses, it may be more. It may be efficient enough to be able to do it once a week, but like sometimes if there are other people following up as well, if you leave it for a week, you could have lost the sale in that time.
Yeah, depending on the business, absolutely.
Yeah. And especially if the people didn't answer, they didn't answer, you've left a message, they're not going to get back to you. Quite frankly, they're not. Most of them don't.
I have clients that say, look, I've rung and they've left a message and they're not getting back to me. Oh, guess what? They won't. They won't.
I had one plumber, when I said to him, well, do you follow up? And he said, well, no, they're supposed to ring me and tell me if they want me to do the job or not. I went, what? You're kidding me. He was upset because people are so rude. They don't ring him back and say, we don't want you to do it, or we do want you to do it. I went, oh my goodness, you have so much to learn.
Absolutely.
Don't do that. So then we can take on the following up of the quotes themselves for people who are doing quotes. And I'm a bit of kind of a nice stalker. I stay with it until they say, we're not using you, go away, whatever. But I don't do it every day. I don't stalk them every day. But, spreading it out over what's a reasonable and decent period of time to make sure that the contact is trying to at least still be there. If they don't answer, I keep leaving a message saying, that's all right, I'll get back to you. Maybe I'll give you a call maybe next week and see how we go, see if we can touch base or get together then or whatever. Don't use touch base much, but so it's that just letting them know that you are there.
Yeah, and that way you stay front of mind, that they're not
Mhm.
going to, if someone else comes along with a bright, shiny object, they're not going to necessarily jump at that instead of you, because that you're forgotten. They're going to then go with someone else. With my reps, I used to, we sold first aid, but we also sold big ticket items like defibrillators and those type of things. And they'd go into a business and they'd see that the business that they've been coming in to service their first aid and look after them for 10, 20 years had just bought a defibrillator. And then they complained to me that that company's bought a defibrillator and they hadn't come to them. And I said, well, did you ever tell them that you sold defibrillators? And did you ever give them a quote? And then did you ever follow up a quote for and somewhere along the process, it was the follow-up was what was missing, and they did that on a $3,000 sale because they haven't
even asked.
haven't asked, or they haven't followed up if they have asked. And
Well,
I remember one company that was a government organisation, so they took ages to make a decision, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of defibrillators. And so every 2 weeks I would call the same person and did that for 6 months. Eventually, when they bought it, she was so committed to me and felt so bad if they hadn't gone anywhere else that they bought it through us. And I would just go, hey, Christine, I can't remember her name now. Hey, Christine, it's Janine here from Alpha, just making my fortnightly call to see where this is in the process and is it moving forward yet? And find out what was going on, and that you'd end up building a relationship.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right. And sometimes, I've had owners say to me, "Oh, look, I don't even know where this one is. This was, 6 weeks ago. That we've probably lost it." And I'll follow it up for them and find, well, the people, the mum died or something, and or the cat or the car or the whatever, or something's happened in their lives that they've gone, look, this is just such a low priority right now, and put it in the back burner. But and so how good is that when, if you're following up regularly and something like that happens, you can first of all be compassionate and understanding and caring about how awful that must be for them, and do whatever it is that needs to be done in that you naturally would do in caring for somebody. And then you're able to go, look, that sounds like it's going to be a bit of a long haul. What about if I just give you a call in about 3 months and just see how you're doing? I mean, there's one lady, she had the most awful pneumonia or something. When I rang her, she was so sick. And I just said, look, don't worry about it. I'll give you a call in 3 or 4 weeks to see how you are. Not to see how the sale is, to see how you are.
Yeah.
Because, like she was really, really sick. And it's that kind of thing, is that building relationships and showing that you care as a human to a human, that gets you. And you don't do it, it sounds awful, but you can teach people to do that, but you can't teach them to care. And people notice the difference. So if they don't genuinely care, if they're not genuinely concerned about that person because they're so unwell, then they will pick up on that. And so there has to be some sense of that. Once again, it's that what she needs right now, what that person who's sick needs right now, is so much more important than my sale. She needs somebody to feel for her, to care about her, and things like that. And so those are the things. You can't teach that, but you can educate on it and hope that people will start to pick up on it.
Yes.
And maybe it's about how they feel about themselves as to whether they care as much or not.
That's an interesting point about some people caring and others not necessarily, having that as probably a bit innate within themselves as to, but again, it's that liking people. It comes back to putting people first and liking people. I think.
Definitely.
I remember I followed up one time, and this young woman, I was selling gym wear, and I used to go around the gyms. I was an aerobic instructor for 10 years as well. So when I was there, I'll go around the gyms and I'd lay out gym wear, take an order, come back in 4 weeks, and it would be made to their specifications with their fabric. I've rung this one woman this one time, and she's answered the phone. She said, "Oh, I've just had a car accident. I'm in the ambulance."
Oh,
And I said, "Okay, that's fine. We'll cut off the conversation now." It's, "Oh, okay. So what do you want?" I said, "Don't worry about it." Oh
oh
gosh.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
But it is a time consuming process. It's a very time consuming process. And you can't, in my experience, it's very difficult to, even though you're able to do it perhaps but it's quite difficult to go, well, I'll just sit down on one day a week and do that. Because, like I said, people don't answer. So you actually need to try them again in a day or two and just see if you can get them then. And if you're trying to do it amongst other things, then it's extremely disruptive to your workflow.
Yeah.
You lose half an hour every time you want to change jobs from, change focus in your work and so forth. So for us, it's good because it's exclusive. That's all we do. That we, apart from the other calls as well, but all we do is follow up. So whether it's a following up of a quote or whether it's a follow up of warm leads, somebody might have been to an expo and they've got all these warm leads, and so many of them just ended up in the bin because they don't have time to follow them all up. And so it's such a waste of all that time that they're paid to stand there at the expo all weekend.
Yes. And they invest hundreds of dollars to be there, and not thousands. And
exactly. And then they just end up in the bin. So having somebody to even take half of those off their load so they can do some themselves and somebody else can do them, it just makes it so much more worthwhile to have spent that time. And then the people actually know that you care about them because you're actually talking to them about their needs.
Yes.
Or whether it's after the sale, after the job's done. And, how do you know that the subcontractors or the employees are actually upholding the values and standards you have?
That's a really good point with that. I'm going to come back to this while we're on because we're nearly time to start wrapping up. Actually,
oh really? Oh, we just started.
I know. Any particular days of the week do you find better, or any times of day that you can get people? I know when I was doing a lot of it with one company, we'd do Tuesdays and Thursdays. It tended to be people weren't at the end of the week not even caring about it, or the beginning of the week when they had really busy goals to set and things to achieve for the week. But that was and not at lunchtime was the other point that I found. But anything that you've come across that times work better?
I find it really hard to find a pattern because I think partly and I mean so many people are working now as well, although there's a lot working from home so they can answer the phone more easily from that. But no, I mean I haven't really noticed a pattern. It just depends on people's lifestyles. And somebody might work a lot during the weekend and so they have a day or two somewhere in the week that they're available, or they've got kids and all the whatever the kids are doing, and like there's just so many variables. I haven't actually been able to find a particular pattern really.
I suppose the point is to do it.
That it's the doing it. It's to continue to do it, and then in amongst the doing it, first of all they know you're trying because they're getting messages from you, and then when you do get them, it's just happens to be a good time. And how do you know when that is if you don't keep trying?
Yes. Yeah. And when people follow me up for things, I thank them for doing that because it's a big deal to do that.
I have people saying, thank you so much. Look, we're not ready to do it now, or we've gone somewhere else or whatever, but thank you so much for ringing us. Like they go, wow, that's a bit unusual.
Yeah.
Because it's not as normal as it should be.
No.
And then there's also the following up to take care of the clients you've got. I mean, what about that? How do you, obviously if you're depending on your industry, there might be opportunities to upsell, but even if there's not, to take care of them and help them to know that you value them and they're important to you and you appreciate their business and things like that. And I'm sorry, but an email doesn't cut it. I'm sorry, it does. If they see it, because let's face it, there's so many come in a day. It's probably way down there on the computer line and they may never see it. And a text, I always feel like, unless you've made phone calls first, for me, a text is like, well, I want to I want to make this sort of somewhat effort to contact you, but I don't actually want to spend time waiting on the phone to get hold of you.
Yeah. And that's why the beauty of having a company like yourself who's got the time to do it. And it's not taking away from the running of the business for somebody, but they've got somebody else to do that. I think that's important. We usually do 3 takeaway points when we're, the important things. I know we've discussed most of them, but I like to sort of finish with them where people go, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that now. So what 3 takeaway points do you have?
Okay, I think the biggest takeaway point is that people don't care what you've got to sell until they know you care about them.
Okay, yeah. And I totally agree, especially a service industry, more so than product necessarily, but definitely a service-based industry. So that's number 1. So people, and I know we were talking about systems earlier too.
Oh yes, the system we do. Oh yes, yeah. Have a system. If you haven't got a system, if you don't know how to do a system, if you don't know anything about systems, if you're like I used to be and think, it doesn't matter, I know how to do it myself, so it's okay. Any of those things, even if people just want to ring me and talk about a system or what do I use or what do I recommend, and I don't know them all, but I can at least get them started with something simple if they want to, or we can just have a proper look at everything and whatever they need, ring and chat if they want to. I don't mind. That's fine. I'm happy to help if I can.
Okay, so that's 2, and the third one.
Excuse me. I've forgotten what I wrote on the
No, that's okay. I think you definitely covered it anyway, which is if you haven't got time and you're the good technician in the business, you really need to outsource, don't you?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah. Outsource as much as you can if you're and especially if especially if you're like trades, or not just trades. I mean, all sorts of things that women do as well that aren't just about trades and that, but whatever it is that your business is, if you know that there has to come a point where this has to work without you, but at the moment it needs you, but you don't have enough time, then outsource some stuff. Outsource the time-consuming, disruptive things.
Yes,
or things you're not good at.
That's the thing, is the things you're not good at, and often if you're not comfortable with sales and the follow-up, then go and do the work and get somebody like yourself to do that.
Or work on your business to help grow it in another way.
Yes,
marketing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So and they're really 3 such important points when it comes to growing a business and having a business that you can love working in also, because that's if we got our own business, that's the thing, we want to have fun with it and we want to enjoy what we're doing on a daily basis. And if you're really uncomfortable about that, I still, as you would probably say, recommend as people get a little more comfortable about it, change the approach, because you're focused on the person and not the sale. But if you're not uncomfortable, then whatever you're not good at, you need to outsource.
Yes, definitely.
And so, on that, how can people get in touch with you, Christine?
Well, they can phone me. My number is 0423 374 114. They can email me, Christine, at quoteconvert.com.au, or my website is quoteconvert.com.au.
Excellent.
Details in there as well.
Yeah, then it'll all be on the show notes, so people will be able to find all that information also. So is there anything that you want to add just before we wrap up?
Give your clients, customers, potential clients, potential customers, the best experience that they can have, and they will, even if they don't buy from you, they will still talk about you because the service was amazing.
Yeah, that 10 out of 10 service is what we want to be able to offer, isn't it? Well done. Thank you, Christine. Really, it's great information and great conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too.
That's Christine Sharkey, and you can contact Christine and through her website which is quoteconvert.com.au, and that's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. Remember, if you're not sure about things that you want to grow, how to grow your business, or how you want to speak about your business, how you want to pitch it, any of the ideas, then please book in for a free strategy call. It's all it's going to cost you is 20 minutes, and I'll be able to offer you some advice and be able to possibly help you myself, or somebody else might be able to help you. But let's have a conversation. So go to JanineVosper.com, and please, if you are anywhere around that you can, not while you're driving and listening to the podcast, but if you can leave a 5-star review, that would be greatly appreciated. I really look forward to you joining me on the next episode of the We Are Women podcast. Bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janine's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.